Hey out there, this is Friday, April 13th, 2018, and it's just about, about 12 minutes or so before 9 in the morning here in Northern California. And I want to talk about a lot of different stuff as usual today. Let's start out by saying how much I value the First Amendment to the Constitution and, this free speech, and how critical it is to maintain free speech in America, especially at this point in history. This is a fundamental American value, and it is what keeps America livable. And like I say, at this point in history particularly, because things have really gotten sucky, and people need to admit it. You know, I listen to Alex Jones incessantly, and he's a young guy. I guess he's 44 now, and so I have to give him a break. But he's super intelligent, got an incredible vocabulary, and he is really an enigma among men because of his outspoken nature. So when I first listened to Alex Jones, I was immediately enthralled with his Americana can-do attitude and his frustration with the events that have taken place in this country and were continuing to take place from the first day that I listened to Mr. Jones. And I wholeheartedly agree. And this is, where this cucking comes in. This idea of cucking, that we've been lulled into being whipped, so to speak. Whipped by who? Who's whipping us? We have to come to a consensus as a collective, because that's what a society is. That's what a community is, a collective of individuals. But it's so essential that individuals know their rights and responsibilities, and how these two intermingle often, because the things we have rights to, we have an obligation, a responsibility to exercise those rights in order to preserve the welfare of future generations, even if we don't care about our own generation. So it's essential that you understand that you are empowered not by government, not by men, that is, but by God himself, herself, themselves, however you want to look at your owner, God Almighty, as. But the first chapter of the Bible, just from a Christian perspective, is that God's nature, very nature, is male and female. That's what God chooses, to be equally powerful male, equally powerful female. And it's just this tension, this dynamic, this male-female yin-yang thing that's so awesome. It's just so intriguing and so evident, that God has brought that down to us, and that this is a cosmic gift of procreation, and helping us to understand. He made it feel so good to procreate, yet this is a command. He said, go forth, be fruitful and multiply and populate the earth. And so his commandments always are fulfilled. Okay, so he knew that, but he built in a failsafe, and this felt really good. And now we understand why he did it all. Why did God create the universe? Why did God lay out the galaxies and the solar systems and all this, and create all the flora and the fauna out there? Well, because he wanted to. What better reason do any of us have for doing the things we do and the things that have brought us the most satisfaction in life? Why does a young couple in love get married? Because they wanted to. Okay, it's just what you do. Why did you decide to take the day off work and go surfing? Okay, because you wanted to, and you're glad you did it, right? Because deep down inside your heart and soul, your spirit, your mind, your true essence is not our bodies, but it's this invisible, eternal force. It told you that eternity is comprised or composed of but a series of moments. You knew that intuitively. We know that instinctively. That really, the past is spent for all intents and purposes. Sure, we have good memories we can reminisce about and all that. It's wonderful and awesome, and we get to keep all the good things that we've built up in our character. I believe at the Judgment Day, the Day of Reckoning, and when all our sins are laid out before God and, there's nothing to hide anymore, then all the chaff will be burned up in the fire. But all the good that we've done in our lives, we will get to keep on and on for eternity. And so we grow as beings forever. This is the whole idea, that you don't lose anything good. That's the whole idea of being a good, upright, decent human being in life, is that you will be rewarded. The reward is assured. What is it? It's everything forever, because your parents are not the ones withholding any good thing from you. So I get off on tangents and I digress and stuff. I know I'm talking about Alex Jones too, but the man has a stubborn streak that puts my stubborn streak. He can drink my stubborn streak under the table, basically. And I'm a very stubborn guy. I really am, and to my own detriment often. I can be self-destructive. I can be very escapist. And, right or wrong, we have to admit, we have to confess our shortcomings, our failings, our weaknesses. And this is very important to having that personal relationship with God. And, it's the kind of thing where you have to decide to be on one side or the other here. Like Jesus said, he said, do fresh and bitter water come from the same stream? Well, some would conjecture, well, it is possible that you've got this, conjuncture of two streams that come together and it creates, you can't tell, so there is an argument to be made for fresh and bitter water coming from the same stream. But at the end of the day, you've got to decide what you're going to be. Are you going to be fresh water, or are you going to be bitter water that's coming out of the stream? Are you going to edify and instruct properly? Okay, that's sanctified, that is, has a stamp of approval from the Most High God, our owner. So ultimately, all the things you teach about politics, left, right, socialist, capitalist, I'm talking about Alex Jones too, and he's the first guy I got hooked on for saying, hey, shatter that left-right paradigm. I'm hearing more and more people, even on the Alex Jones show, talking about this, and it's super important that we talk about these things. This capitalist, socialist thing, and Alex Jones, the guy, you tell him not to do something, and that's it. He's just one of these kind of guys. I don't know what his parents did to discipline him, and, I got disciplined, and I learned, that, hey, is there a reason for why my parents are so mad at me about this thing? Do you not walk out in the street? Why they're just, they're trying to restrict my independence, right? But you realize, no, there's a very good reason why your parents did everything they had to do to make sure you understood you don't walk out in the street. But it's like that, and it's not because your parents are your teachers, your educators, your instructors, those that are trying to edify you and instruct you properly, not for ego, not because they're smarter than you and they're right and you're wrong. That's not it. It's for your own welfare. But, he's the kind of guy, you tell him not to do something and he's just, going to do it. So, you could say, okay, we'll use opposite psychology. But Alex Jones has the intellect. He's got a giant intellect, basically, and he's not going to fall for reverse psychology either. So he's an intriguing guy to try to to get on a track where he is going to be steady and always be pure water that edifies properly, instructs properly. But he's been bandying this term around, this a free market, a lot. And it really pisses me off. I'm sorry, it ticks me off. It gets me going because I don't really think he knows what he's talking about. And I hate to say that, but I don't like to be insulting. But we have to be critical sometimes because we're being true to ourselves. Because when somebody says something, we know, hey, he's off straight. He's got a huge influence on the masses. He's got to understand what he's talking about. This is super important, this economic stuff. That's why I'm always coming back to economic stuff, is because it goes right into the heart of what Jesus taught. This is a false competing God, this money, for one thing. You can't serve two masters. How much more clear? You've got to always come back to that. Left, right, socialist, capitalist, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, all this divisive crap. You got to understand that the people that are pulling the strings at the top, creating the policies we all have to live under, these people don't give a flying F. Okay, they don't give a crap. Okay, about your political affiliations, and because that's all it is. That socialist, capitalist, political has to do with money. It's all about money. Okay, philosophy's about money. That's what it's all about. Okay, I mean, people can say, "Oh no, well, the right wing, they take issues of abortion, they take the moral high ground." I say, "Oh really? Do they? Do they support a basic income?" Who's the biggest supporter of Martin Luther King Jr.? My dad was a huge supporter. To this day, he's got a poster up in his house, even though he passed 4 years ago. But he's got a poster of Martin Luther King Jr. up in his house, and he's very proud to have adored Mr. Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, the "I Have a Dream" speech guy. And one of the tenets that Martin Luther King Jr. believed in was this basic guaranteed income. Now, you want to stop abortion, all you right-wing conservatives out there, you say you want to take the moral high ground. Well, how do you feel about that? Now, before you answer that, okay, and I know I'm digressing and all that. Yes, Alex Jones is still in the mix because I'm trying to, if somehow somebody that knows him gets wind of, that they can get a video to him or something. Look, I'm trying to help out here. I want a kinder, safer, gentler society. I need to instruct and edify properly. Otherwise, I face the wrath of my owner. Okay, I don't give a crap about being any more than I am, like we all are. We're gods, like Jesus said, with a small g. I mean, that's a big deal. People need to be empowered with that information. And humble, yes, we need to confess our weaknesses, our pathetic nature. The body is a body of death. Have no faith in the flesh and worldliness and all this crap. It's all true and good and right. So we have to endure a lot of paradoxes in life. And it's not always easy. That's why we always need God. We always got to turn back to God for the ultimate advice and counsel. And that's what the Holy Spirit of God is called. It's called the counselor. And so God's willing to give advice anytime we turn to him. I mean, it's ever present. Just tap into it. When you're driving down the road or anytime your thoughts wander into how you hate your enemy or something. Say, God, take over. I'm starting to be somebody that the devil wants me to be, but you don't want me to be. I mean, this is what we got to do here, folks. It's serious stuff. But when, we talk about this free market stuff, look, we need to discuss this and have a definition. If you Google it, you'll have just one-liner, okay? And it's really not. It just talks about free competition. Okay, well, that doesn't mean collusion of special interest groups that are working together. For example, one guy buys 10 different companies and says it's competition when he's setting the prices at all the companies. That's not right. And you'd want to talk about, we got to talk about supply and demand in this mix. Always got to inject supply and demand in here. Look at the supply of money. What is the supply side of the money printing? Okay, and apparently it's infinite, because as soon as the country goes in debt, they just print more and just put it on the backs of who? Who's it falling on? It's not falling on those whose numbers are being maintained or increasing, is it? Their numbers, the financial numbers I'm talking about, whether it's income or they're just staying, above. Their heads are well above the flood stage, okay? Who it's sinking the others. The middle class is getting harder and harder. It's gotten impossible now in California to enter middle class home ownership. It's like winning the lottery or something. It's pulling a rabbit out of the hat to enter middle class home ownership in America anymore. Even if you are an entrepreneur, small businessman, whatever. It's tough. The competition is stiff out there, let me tell you, especially when you get out in the rural areas. Okay, if you're strong and smart and young and strong and all that, maybe in the cities you could compete, and you might possibly, but the prices, the rents, the cost of living tax is much higher in the cities. So you're sunk. No matter where you go in California, there's no land of opportunity. There's no America in California anymore. And this is going to spread, metastasize across the country. And people got to be on their guard, what to watch out for. They're going to try to sell you. The mainstream media is going to tell you how good it is that you got equity in your house that's going up. They don't explain this unearned increment. They won't mention that term, will they? But if you go to real estate school, you'll learn about unearned increment. It's like ill-gotten gain or something. Well, I didn't do any improvements on my house and it's falling apart, it's dilapidated, but hey, it still magically went up in worth. You understand that's market manipulation, that's price rigging, that's collusion of special interest groups that all have an interest in raising your housing tax, your cost of living. Housing is essential, crucial, paramount to your survival, to your existence. You need housing. You understand? So it's not like you can wiggle away from it. You know, you can't. You're stuck. You're under the thumb. You need it to survive. You understand? So they got you by the throat. They got you by the testes, the ovum, whatever you want to call it. They got